Channel Status Theory, Episode 28. Here is something that should not be true, but is. In a series of controlled experiments, researchers gave people identical wine from identical bottles. The only difference was the price they were told they were drinking. People consistently rated the expensive wine as tasting better. More than that, their brains were more active in the regions associated with pleasure when they thought they were drinking the expensive wine. They were not performing. They were not trying to seem sophisticated. Their brains were physically reporting a different experience based on price information alone. This is the placebo effect applied to luxury, and it changes everything about how we understand the premium market. The wine experiment is not an outlier. It is one of a long series of findings that reveal a consistent and powerful cognitive bias. Price shapes perception of quality. In 2008, researchers at the Stanford Graduate School of Business and Caltech published a study in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences showing that when subjects were told a wine cost more, they reported greater pleasantness, and brain imaging showed increased activity in the medial orbital frontal cortex, a region associated with experienced pleasantness. The wine was identical. The price information changed the actual brain response. Similar effects have been found with pain medication. Subjects reported a placebo pain reliever worked better when told it cost $2.50 per pill versus 10 cents per pill, even though both were sugar pills. Research by Dan Ariely and colleagues, published in the Journal of Marketing Research, found that people who paid full price for an energy drink completed more puzzles than those who bought the same drink at a discount. The full-price group did not just report feeling more energized, they performed measurably better. The brain, it turns out, uses price as information about quality, and that information shapes the actual experience. This cognitive bias is not irrational. It is an adaptive shortcut. In most domains of experience, price genuinely does correlate with quality over time. Wine that takes longer to produce typically does cost more. A chef who trained for a decade typically does charge more. Tools built to tighter tolerances typically do cost more to manufacture. The brain is not wrong to use price as a quality signal. It is using a heuristic that has generally worked. The problem arises when price decorrelates from quality, when something expensive is expensive for reasons unrelated to production, craft, or performance. The luxury market exploits this heuristic deliberately. By keeping prices high and quantities limited, luxury brands ensure that the heuristic fires even when the product itself may not objectively outperform alternatives at lower price points. Research on this phenomenon falls under the broader umbrella of marketing placebo effects. The term was developed by consumer researchers to describe how marketing information, price, brand, packaging, setting, can change the actual experience of using a product, not just the reported experience. The effect is not limited to subjective preference. Context can change physical experience. Studies on pain perception have found that identical pain stimuli are rated as more or less severe depending on environmental cues.
A treatment administered in a clinical-looking environment is often perceived as more effective than the same treatment in a bare room. Hospital design research has documented that patients in rooms with natural light and view of nature report faster recovery and require less pain medication compared to patients in windowless rooms, even with identical medical care. Luxury environments apply this logic to product consumption. A watch examined under gallery lighting with white-gloved staff and a velvet presentation tray is being experienced differently by the brain than the same watch in a glass display case in a crowded shopping mall. The experience primes different neural responses. The context is not fake. It is shaping what the brain actually registers. This is why expensive restaurants do not just use better ingredients. They use dim lighting, acoustically considered rooms, unhurried service, and precise presentation. All of these elements are not peripheral. They are part of the product being consumed. The context is the flavor. There is a deeper mechanism underneath the price-quality illusion. Consumption shapes identity. When you buy something expensive, the purchase is not only a transaction, it is a statement about who you are and who you are becoming. Research in consumer psychology consistently shows that people experience more satisfaction from purchases that are consistent with their desired self-image, regardless of the functional quality of the product. The person who buys a luxury pen is not only buying an instrument for writing, they are buying a version of themselves in which they are the kind of person who uses a luxury pen. That story about the self generates real satisfaction, and it makes the pen feel better to write with. This effect compounds over time. Research on the endowment effect, the tendency to value things more once you own them, suggests that after a luxury purchase, people continue to generate positive affect from the object, partly because it has become part of their self-concept. The object no longer needs to perform independently. It is already incorporated into identity. Luxury brands understand this instinctively. The best ones do not just sell products, they sell self-narratives. The watch is a story about discipline and taste. The bag is a story about belonging and access. The pen is a story about craftsmanship and care. And because the story is real, because the brain generates actual pleasure from it, the object really does feel better to write with. The expensive thing does not always perform better in a blind test, but it almost always feels better. And the feeling is not fake. It is a real neural event, generated by price information, context, and the story the purchase tells about who you are. Once you understand this, you realize that luxury is not selling deception. It is selling a reliable upgrade to your subjective experience of the world. The object is expensive. The signal is priceless. And both are real.